So we'll get started here. Sure, Phil will be joining us here in a second. But so once again, welcome back, everybody. And as you'll see, we've got kind of the roundtables back up on the screen here. We've got our moderators assembled. So as we did yesterday, we're going to have each of them go down the line, provide their top takeaways from their respective sessions, and that'll give you a little bit more insight into some of those discussions you weren't able to attend. So we'll start off here with Andy.
My name is Andy Thompson, the Yetter Manufacturing. We had a roundtable, actionable insights for adding agronomic services. Had about 30 people in there, and kind of the summary of the discussion was there was a few dealers in our group that really, I guess what I would call more so, they are agronomy dealers, and then they've got into selling precision ag equipment because they saw basically the need for it in their area because of a lack of it. But most were precision ag retailers that were looking to evolve their precision ag departments, so just kind of take the next step with the services they were already providing. Or some of them were actually precision ag retailers that were in there in the discussion trying to cut down on mistakes from their farmers, the maps, the recs and stuff like that, kind of from the agronomists. So one of the potential problems with as I guess I'll put it, vertical integration, the precision ag dealers adding the agronomic services, one of the problems that was brought up was creating competition with the agronomy retailers, which so many times are also customers of the precision ag dealer, especially on the main line, buying sprayers and that sort of thing there. So there was a lot of talk about, I guess I would say, not stepping on toes, so to speak. But ultimately, there appears to be a lack of communication in the industry between agronomists and the precision ag dealers. So really, we're quite a few people are asking questions trying to address that. And really, one person put it that farmers are like the general contractors for their farm. They're the ones, they're steering the ship, but they have to rely on the input or the services from so many different people, and so they're needing when they get the precision ag retailer, and then they get the agronomist services, and they're trying to put those services together. They need to make sure that everybody is speaking the same language, and so somebody brought up one great way to do that is for that farmer to have a meeting, and so as a precision ag dealer, maybe going to your farmers and bringing up to them, hey, maybe it's time that that we have a meeting, that you schedule a meeting with the agronomist and with myself, and then we go in there and we actually have this discussion to make sure that when they're making maps or they're making recs, that they understand the right way to do it, and then they're also taking other things into account. They're out there just providing the agronomy services, but maybe they're actually making recs that they didn't take everything into account, like some of the equipment or some of the possibilities there. So just getting everybody together and getting on the same page was kind of one of the big main takeaways. And so for me, ultimately, it appears that agronomy is becoming a closer to precision ag equipment dealers' decisions and focus. But really, I don't see a full integration of adding a full agronomic services happening anytime soon, because so many times we're not wanting to alienate potential customers. So basically the perceived risk is really bigger than the perceived reward. So it's driving decisions, but really incrementally driving decisions as far as the agronomy, and not just, I guess, jumping all in.
I'm Wade Black with Ritchie Implement, and we had a very good discussion logging into the potential of online sales opportunities. We did have a small group. We had anything from equipment dealers to people that specialize in selling online. I guess briefly to start out, the consensus was selling online is a used market. Selling new precision equipment online, it doesn't work out that well. And what we all agreed on was it is a time commitment. You have to know your place in the market. For us, we are a equipment dealer. We sell iron. We wouldn't go and put a lot of resources out to selling used equipment or used precision equipment. And A big part of our discussion was not sitting on that used precision equipment, networking like what we're doing here today, finding someone that specializes like John in our group. That's all he does. He sells used precision equipment, and you can't sit on stuff because it's just not going to go up in value. We've all been fighting the same battle regarding sitting on used equipment, how to price it, how to sell it, where to market it, using third-party sources such as eBay, Facebook, Facebook Marketplace, AgTalk, and anything to get your products out there. And the biggest takeaway that I would take from it is networking with people around you and finding a place for that equipment.
Good morning. My name is Bruce Westerfield with Right Implement. We had a good group in discussing on recruiting and retention. Had several OEM dealerships in there, some smaller, some bigger, along with some independents. Had some very good discussion. But as far as the recruiting part of it, a lot of us said that we need to hire local people, and it comes a lot more successful. Also, recruiting four-year college-educated students instead of high school ends up being a lot long-term better fit for the dealerships. Utilize social media for hiring processes. There was several different people had HR departments that went different ways, and none was highly successful, but social media was one way that you can get some to come in. As far as retention, show respect to your precision specialist. Sometimes they get abused as far as precision specialist gets all the credit jobs, so to speak. And as far as our retention of precision specialists, we all seem to have problems throughout the room in each dealership. Need to pay more attention to the technology side of the business and forget about selling the iron sometimes for the OEM dealers. The independents didn't have that problem. Matter of fact, they said they take advantage of the OEM dealers because the OEM dealers did not pay attention to technology near as much so. Need to one dealer took all their new hires throughout their dealership as far as the different departments and had them run through each department to show pride in the dealership. And that's another way that they thought that they held retention. But overall, we struggle with retention, and we need to just work at it a little bit harder.
I'm Mike Pringler with HBS Systems. I did the roundtable on do I need a CRM system for my precision business. We had a small group. It seemed that probably half the group is utilizing a CRM for their precision business now. Most of the group was interested in how to implement a CRM for their precision business or the dealership in general. Some of the problems that the dealerships are facing is getting people, especially senior people at the dealerships, to actually utilize and use the CRM functionality that the dealership's providing, whether that be part of their business system or third-party Salesforce or Iron HQ. We talked through some different methods regarding incentivizing people to put data inside the CRM system because it's only as good as the data you put in, and using a point system that would penalize people that didn't necessarily use the system correctly. In general, it seemed that most people want to use a CRM. They're investing pretty good resources into their CRM and definitely see the benefit of putting a CRM inside the dealership to help track activities and to increase sales and profitability.
My name's Corey Kress, and I had the pleasure of moderating the best practices for building my precision business. Had a very diverse group, had some independent consultants in the room, some ag retailers, some single location equipment dealers, and then multiple location equipment dealers. One of the main things that really came through is that that everybody needed to understand what the mission of their business was to help establish their brand. And that the brand is a promise to the customer for what they can expect to be delivered through solutions, services, and the utilization of the brand's products. But the major takeaway that was, if we're going to create any brand, we have to establish a value. So it's mandatory that we charge for the services that we provide to the customer. Because if we're doing it for free, then it's very hard to ever charge anything going forward.
Casey Neiman with AgriSync. I facilitated the service planning and promoting your service plans breakout. And we had, a large group topic of interest. I think one of the key takeaways, I spoke with somebody who was in it 3 years ago, and when we had a raise of hands of how many people had paid service plans, only a few people raised their hand. And this year when we started having that discussion, the majority of the participants do have service plans that they're either rolling out or in process, and some have had those for 3 to 4 years, and we're really grateful for them to share kind of what's working and what's not. Definitely a trend is that if I sell a net new piece of equipment, that first year service plan is often included as a line item in the new whole goods sale, and that's allowing, if you will, the customer to have that first experience, with the service plan. And I think it's important that we deliver value in that service plan, even if the customer doesn't have a bunch of problems. So what are we doing in terms of proactive training? What are we doing in terms of a couple of on-farm visits for maybe a spring setup or a pre-harvest setup? What are we doing in terms of loaners and warranties? And then in that, allowing the customer to see the value of participating in an annual service plan versus the value of just having a transactional relationship. So if you are not, if the customer elects not to use your service plan, do we actually charge them for that billable phone time? Do we charge them for those startup visits? And so being able to, at the end of the year, be able to share with that customer on a per line item approach that here's the value that we provided in your service plan, and oh, by the way, here's what it would have cost had you not participated in the service plan. And then the last piece is getting more people in the boat. If we're the only ones out there promoting our precision ag plans, that's a challenge. If we can get our service managers, our whole goods salespeople incentivized and able to communicate our service plans, that's more people, right, that can articulate the value of the service plans. And so we talked a little bit about some incentives to encourage those other parties in our dealership to be able to sell that. And the key is being simple, right? So making it simple enough that anybody in the dealership can kind of articulate the value add of that service plan. So overall, a really good discussion.
I'm Phil Moskal, moderated the what is the real ROI behind UAVs, and our consensus was no one knows. So basically they figured that more money was in the support packages than actually selling the UAVs. We had a smaller group, about 12, 15 people there, and half were actively selling UAVs. The other half were interested. The DJI seemed to be the most popular platform because it was the most available, the probably cheapest out there. Talked about data overload in there. You can go out there and get so many pictures with the UAVs, whether it be just straight photos or the NDVI or anything else. And it can be kind of overwhelming to customers to have all that data. You also have to position it correctly. You can't go out there to someone who is maybe just doing yield mapping or yield monitoring and try and sell them a UAV. That's not going to fly, because what does it mean to them? Or like that guy who you print off the maps for at the end of the year and he says, well, thanks, and he's done. You just have to position yourself correctly. We talked a lot about the future, and there may be no ROI now, but with as rapidly as UAVs are advancing and the technology for data analytics are advancing, will there be an ROI in the future? And getting into it now to position yourself to be that trusted advisor, to be that person that if someone has questions to come and ask, because it is a large market and there's a lot of people out there doing that. And then finally, the last thing was probably outlets for the UAVs in other industries besides ag. So think about the construction or the search and rescue, or something that you may be able to build a relationship with those people instead of just working with that ag market and thinking outside the box that way.
Excellent. Well, how about another round of applause here for our moderators, and thank you very much for your time. As you guys exit stage left here, we do have a little token of appreciation.